Hey, everybody, this is Benzo Powers Podcast, Episode 1. I'm thinking about trying to do a little series of, yeah, you guessed it, Benzo podcasting. I know there's probably at least a dozen other ones out there, but I've never really done it. So, here I go. All things Benzos starts now. So, I gotta tell you, I've been working on this film, Lake of Fire, which is just coming out so amazing. We had almost zero, next to nothing in terms of budget. And, you may look and see that we've raised, I think, somewhere around 3 or 4 grand now. But in terms of a feature film, especially a feature film, that's almost nothing. I mean, you could spend that on catering and just securing a location. That's before paying your actors or your sound and engineers or your color grading and editing and you name it. I mean, there's so many moving pieces to making a film. I mean, even when you see a 10-minute movie, a 10-minute short film, oftentimes those can easily get up into hundreds of thousands of dollars in production. And we've managed to do some amazing things just with, like I said, 3 or 4 grand so far. And that's because everybody's so positive, so committed, and so passionate about this. I don't think it could happen any other way. I mean, everybody took a pay cut. Everybody has worked long hours. Everybody has showed up way earlier than they wanted to. I mean, I've got actors driving 2-3 hours, and we're there first thing in the morning, and they're leaving, oftentimes when it's getting dark, not getting home till late, and coming back again the next day. And they don't complain. They show up, they know their lines, they're happy, they bring things to the table, which is always amazing when you have people that are so into the project that they actually bring things to the table and say, well, I think my character would do this, or what if she said it like this, or I think she would like to wear these type of clothing. I mean, it's just been a magical artistic process. It really has been an artistic process, and it's almost like watching a flower blossom, like a lotus unravel. And for that reason, I don't like being a kind of guy that makes films that are, that come in a box. And I should step back and say, you guys all know me as, Dave Howard's the Benzo coach. But before before being even a Benzo coach, I was an artist. I worked many years as a fine artist, God, since I was like early 20s. And I've been everywhere, Los Angeles, New York. I showed work in Italy and Canada and, just all over the place. And it had a good little run, a good career, and I've loved art. But then I started to switch gears, not totally, not like real switching, but I knew that art wasn't going to pay the bills potentially. It was too tough. I mean, you would have great months and then you would have a big, huge lull, and your landlord and the electric company don't care that you had a great month in January, but February through April was tough, And at the same time, I had already had a lot of really profound experiences with Zen meditation and things into psychology. I always loved psychology. So even while I was pursuing an art career, I was going to school for psychology, just as sort of a backup, and I always thought, well, if the art really launched and I had to only do one thing, that's probably what I would do. But I also seen it as all my training in psychology and knowledge and being able to understand myself, as an artist. I'm kind of I think artists are complex people. So I knew it would just be beneficial. And as I continued, I always wondered if I was going to be able to do both, if I was going to be able to be a real quote unquote psychologist, because I always just felt like an artist. And I always thought, what if I'm too crazy? What if I'm just too eccentric or too creative, or, what if I had to choose? What if the box that psychology puts me in, I don't want to be in? What if they make me cut my hair and shave my beard and dress a certain way and talk a certain way and make all these sacrifices? I was like, wow, do I really want to do that? And can both of these worlds kind of coexist? And I just came to, to terms with, well, I'm going to make it work. I'm just going to have to make it work, because I won't sacrifice one or the other. It's like two children, I'm not getting rid of any of my children, Um, they're just going to have to coexist somehow. But I say all that because a lot of you guys know me as Dave, the Benzo coach, and then you see me taking on this film, and you're probably going, "What? What is he doing? He's a Benzo coach, right?" Is it? I mean, I've even had people say, "Is this guy even really in psychology?" You know, and I get that because the way I look or whatever. But look, times are changing. I mean, I see medical doctors with tattoos and beards and long hair and whatever. You know, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, how we look shouldn't really matter. I know it gives some credibility and it looks nice to see the clean cut guy that's older with the glasses and the lab coat and all the plaques behind him on the wall. But I don't know, to me that always felt kind of fake and untrue. I mean, at least to who I was. And I mean, if that's who I was anyway, sure, great, no problem. Anyone that, I'm not saying anybody who dresses that way or does that is fake in any way, but I think to do something that doesn't feel natural to who you feel like you are in your expression, that's fake. All right. So I say all this again just to kind of, I guess, inform some of you, because some of you are fans and know a lot about me, and we're friends on Facebook, or you see my art and things like that. But some of you probably are not that well informed, and so this isn't as crazy of out of a left field thing where this Benzo coach just decided he's going to try to make a film. That would be, believe me, more than I think anybody, I realize how crazy that would be, and how the cards would be stacked up against you to fail. But I've made several films now, and I knew while I was making the films that don't take yourself too serious, and that there was going to be an enormous learning curve. I mean, there's such a learning curve, especially with me as being an artist and a writer and a guy who was actually a photography major in college. It just made sense for me. So I had a lot of pieces that for the last, God, almost 20 years, literally, I have been working on and kind of getting better at, So this wasn't a thing where I go, I'm just going to dabble. No, I knew cameras. I knew photography. I taught photography. I had an eye as a fine artist for all things art, from set design to wardrobe to palettes. And I thought like an artist. I think like an artist. And I'd been writing since I was a kid. I mean, literally, I had hundreds of poems before I was ever 18 and dozens of short stories. I've written probably 4 or 5 novels. I've just been writing, and probably dozens. I mean, literally 30, 40, 50 screenplays at this point. So this was already just what I like to do. I had already liked doing this. And I chased the dream of being a fine artist, and I kept going down the hard road of being a clinical psychologist one day. But I was doing all the other stuff. I was still writing. I was still, interested in photography and studying film. And one thing about me is I know the value of education. And I've spent most of my life in school in some way or another. And I know it's not cool today where with all the politics, we kind of crap on school. And maybe there are problems in the education system, right now, especially colleges. And I know it's controversial, but I say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, I go all the way back to like Plato in the School of Athens, where we knew then as a human race that knowledge was power, self-knowledge was power, knowing your world was powerful. It was enlightening. It made you. It facilitated your evolution. I mean, just to know where you are, just to know how some rational way of how you got here, how you function. And where you might be heading, that's pretty valuable stuff. Knowing different cultures, knowing different geography, knowing history, knowing anatomy, microbiology, all this stuff. Actually, at one point, I was pre-med. I mean, it was really weird. My academic ride is, because before I even went to college, I was in Los Angeles showing at a 5-star gallery and kind of going, how the hell did I end up here? This small town Florida boy is suddenly jumps on a plane and he's downtown Los Angeles showing with world star, world class artists. I mean, I don't know what the hell I was doing there, to be honest. I mean, now I know I think I deserve to be there. Don't get me wrong, but it was one of these it was almost a fish out of water. I was like, this is a different world, and so I don't even know where I was going with that, but anyway. Yeah, I have a background in art. I had a background in film. I have a background in rambling off topic, so this is going to be challenging, I guess, a little bit. But I guess I say all this again just to say that this isn't something I'm just winging, making this film. And I think some of you are going to be pleasantly surprised when you start to see the quality. And well, I guess you've seen some of the stills, and you've seen some of the. I even put up a couple clips silently over. I think one of my last videos, right? Maybe my last video, I posted some stuff, and some of you guys wrote me over like, "Holy crap! That are you serious? This is what you're doing?" And it's like, yeah, that's the quality, and wait till you see the acting. And I think wait till you see the writing and the story and what's being told, I mean, what's being conveyed. Because this film was so important to me that it had a few goals. I mean, one, it had to tell the story of Benzo's. Like, what does it mean to go through this? I wanted it to validate our experience, So if you're watching it, you can say, yeah, he got it right. This guy went through it. I mean, this is an accurate portrayal of what I went through. Now, within reason, guys, remember, this film, it's almost like a tightrope walk because I don't want to trigger people. So surely there will be people that will say, this isn't dark enough. And there will be people that will say, this is too dark. So it was like trying to find the right temperature of this film was going to be challenging. It's like, how do I give an accurate portrayal without making a horror film? Because it is a horrible thing to go through, right? And I think we did do that. I mean, I really do think we did justice in that regard. I mean, this lead actress, Sarah Yarbrough, I don't know, I've probably apologized to her 400 times. Like the places she's had to go and enter into this character, it's just been incredible, really. And I think she does it justice. I mean, she's given everything she's got. All the cast has given everything they've got, and gone and taken themselves to these dark places and done the research and understand, I think, as well as someone can understand from being on the outside of it, at least. So yeah, I think you guys can be pleasantly surprised. So that's a few words on Lake of Fire, which we got about another month left to shoot. We've got, I was hoping to be wrapped up by now, actually, but we've had some hiccups with scheduling and things like that. And then finally, which leads me, I guess, into the next topic, as there was a COVID outbreak. Well, at least between two of us, Sarah, the lead actress, and myself. And it came on, so, you might even hear it in my voice. I'm still a little bit winded and still a little scratchy throat and everything. And I'm on day maybe 11 now, I think. And I'm pretty sure I got the Omicron variant, thank God, because the Delta would have, the way the Omicron kicked my butt, I couldn't imagine having it be worse. And it came on, we shot Sunday, and then Monday I felt okay. I woke up, we got up, got some food. I was on my way to the gym, and then I started feeling just a little bit kind of under the weather. Decided, maybe I'll sit it out today. By the time I got home, 102 fever, and I was in the thick of it. I mean, I was in the fight. And I was worried because I had, sensitive lungs. I had been in a car accident earlier in my life where I had punctured my lung. And I've always just had, a little more sensitive lungs. Like, I've always had to be careful with allergies, and I can't smoke, I can't be around certain things in the air. I've always had to be a little more delicate, so I think it hit my lungs a little bit harder than probably a lot of people would have. So I'm still dealing with that, and hopefully things keep moving in the right direction, because it's been a hell of a fight. It's been 11 days of a subtle torture, and so we lost a couple weeks, and then Sarah got sick, and so we'll be missing this weekend, too, as I'm recording this. It's Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, and we are supposed to be shooting this weekend. Don't think that's going to happen. But hopefully, the following weekend, we're back. We'll be shooting the last two really heavy scenes. There are two dinner scenes and a really a catalyst-like scene, the scene in the film where the lid blows off the top. Let's put it that way. And so we all needed to be at our best for this one. So yeah, COVID. Wow. I'll tell you, I have a lot of clients that got it. A lot of my clients got it, and everyone asks the same thing. Do you think this impacts benzos? Do you think going through benzo withdrawal at any level, this is adding to things? And I'll tell you, I cannot see how it wouldn't. Not to trigger anyone. Now, I'm not saying you can't recover first off, let me just say every one of my clients recovered. But I mean, any stressor going through benzos is a factor, right? I mean, it's a stress disorder essentially that we're battling. We're battling this faulty, damaged stress response system in the brain that's flooding the body with cortisol and norepinephrine, and it's just wreaking hell. Anything can do it. A fight with your husband or your wife, bills, stress, a cold, anything can really, you're in a sensitive state as you're recovering for sure. And COVID, it rings your bell. I mean, even on a mild level, there's a lot of inflammation in the body. It just does a ton of negative stuff. And it ramps up that fight or flight center. It ramps up. I mean, you got to remember, guys, stress response isn't just about, if you got in a fight with somebody or your spouse or something, okay, that's stressful, or bills are stressful. But physical stuff is stressful. That's why when I'm working with someone and they haven't done a lot of physical work before, or since they've been recovering, I never tell them, okay, here's what we're going to do. I want you to walk 5 miles and lift weights and, all these things. No. We usually begin by breathing and stretching, and we get a little routine going. We start doing some what I call lulling activities, lulling down the nervous system a little bit. Deep breathing exercises activate that parasympathetic nervous system, and that quite literally is the brake pad or the brake pedal for the fight or flight response. So we start with things like that. Then we start with maybe really mild walking. We just say, let's add a few hundred steps a day, and we just build off that momentum. Because if you push too much, as many of you are well aware, that translates to physical stress, and physical stress will ring that bell. And when that bell's rung, norepinephrine, cortisol rushes through the body, and it wreaks hell. And then it becomes a self-fueling, self-sustaining loop is what it creates. That's the really, that's the part where I come in as a coach, and I'm working to try to help you guys break that loop. There's a self-sustaining cycle, and that's where a lot of us get stuck in. A lot of us get stuck in this, and we can't get out of it. It's just, and we don't even know what's happening. We just think we're healing, but then the months go by, and we just seem to be stuck. Well, what's happening there? It's self-fueling. It's like being on a carousel ride or something, and the symptoms keep it moving. So it's a tricky thing to treat, but it starts by, essentially lowering that parasympathetic response, and then increasing our ability to push back against the symptoms at the same time, bringing down the norepinephrine and the cortisol. So anyway, I'm saying all this because, again, too much exercise will definitely ramp up your symptoms. Just on a physiological level, it activates that stress response of the brain. And when that gets activated, you're off to the races. So that's what COVID does, I mean, the first few days I had it, my ears were ringing. It was like there was a just constantly, and then a slight, the tinnitus was loud as can be. I mean, in some ways I was sitting there going, this feels a little bit like benzo withdrawal. Like, this is wild, just that your body is under stress. Your body's inflamed. Your body has this foreign, invader inside it wreaking hell. So yeah, I think if you're going through benzos, I think it's enough to really ramp up your symptoms. Doesn't mean it will always do that. A lot of clients that said, it didn't really hit me that hard at all. And I had other clients that said, oh my God, my ears were ringing and I was having panic attacks and I couldn't sleep, and like this was hell. For at least a good 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, it seemed to be the run time for all that, and then things came back down. And I will say this, for like my clients that were worried that they were making progress, they were, doing the exposure, this and that, and they were making great progress. And then suddenly it was like this COVID ran them over, and they were so, defeated and disappointed that, great, now I spent the last month or two or whatever, X amount of days working hard, and I just lost all of that progress. I'm so pissed. I'm so defeated. And I'll remind you guys that, especially with like things like exposure therapy and a lot of that work, you're not going to lose that. You keep that. Don't worry about that. Don't sweat that so much. Just worry about, well, I don't say worry, but focus on healing. Focus on resting, getting lots of fluid if you're going through COVID, lots of fluid, boost your immunity, meditate, breathe, get hot baths, break up the stuff in your chest, get a lot of sunlight, some vitamin D, zinc, vitamin C, eat healthy, cut out the sugars, cut out the dairy, watch comedies, and just wait. You just got to wait it out and trust and have faith that things are going to come back online like they should. And when you get back, you can get back to kicking butt again, and you won't lose it. I mean, maybe it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, but I often talk about there's something called what I don't know if it's called. This is kind of a term I've been using, I guess, is neurological muscle memory. It's like bodybuilding, or lifting weights. You have muscle memory, and you can lose it. You can be out for months, and you can lose all your progress and all of it. You get back into the gym, you'll be surprised how fast it all comes back because there's a muscle memory there. Well, I believe in neurological muscle memory. You've been breathing, you've been learning the cognitive reframing, you've been doing the lulling exercises, you've been doing the pushing exercises. You're making the progress, you're doing the exposures. You're quite literally changing your perception, your response, you're beating it. That doesn't just go away. Now, just because your symptoms flare up, it's more physiological. But, rest assured, what goes up will come back down. That neurological muscle memory will be there, and you will get back to winning again. All right? So have faith in that, guys. If you happen to get it, I still think a vaccine is a smart choice. I know it's a controversial thing. It's crazy that today that vaccines should be controversial, but I waited too long to get my next dose. The numbers had dropped here, and I wasn't a big fan of vaccines. I never took vaccines. I don't like anything that's too invasive in the body. I don't even like taking an aspirin. I think some of us come out of benzos and you were sort of like you've got like almost like a PTSD when it comes to health on stuff. You're like you play it safe, and I was worried about the vaccine as far as just having any heart inflammation, but it's so very, 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 very rare. And what I didn't realize was that COVID causes inflammation, and the chances of having COVID cause inflammation in tissue was way higher than that vaccine. So again, I'm not getting paid, and I'm not trying to preach to you about getting a vaccine. I'm just saying, if you're really worried about COVID and you're sitting there in fear, why not just get the damn vaccine? You'll ease your mind, and your chances of being better are so much higher. And I will say this about the Omicron variant. I saw these reports, the vaccines don't do anything for that. That's just not true. I saw people around me. I saw a bunch of people get sick around the same time I did. And us that were mildly vaccinated or non-vaccinated, it was a hell of a different battle. The people that I knew that were vaccinated, even I had a friend who had a bad heart. He was older, he was overweight. He was double vaccinated and boosted. The guy said it was, 2 days and he was out of it, felt like almost nothing, a mild cold. And here I am on 11 days and I'm still having breathing issues and, tired and lethargic and another thing with this COVID stuff is it causes weird depression and anxiety. And that's something that I had talked to at least a dozen people about, and they all reported the same thing. It's just so bizarre. I'm not sure what it all is, where it all stems from. I think some of it obviously is disruptance of your life as you know it. You're being sick, you're quarantined, you're in the house, you're worried about your health, how it ramps up your stress response, all of that, sure. But it's almost like it has some other effect on you. It's very strange. I mean, what do we know about this virus, And again, I'm definitely not trying to trigger any of you guys. I'm actually only saying this because I'm trying to validate that if you've gone through it and you've had flare-ups and you've had weird things symptoms-wise with the COVID, you're probably not crazy. I don't think you're crazy. I don't think it's in your head, and despite you might have people around you saying, oh, it's the common cold. No, it's not. It really isn't. So, but rest assured, everybody seems to be getting better, and but treat the symptoms. If you're getting the depression, anxiety, try to do your best to kind of steer around that. Watch some more comedies, talk to a friend, make sure you're eating right, getting a lot of sunlight, and then just kind of ride it out and have faith again that it'll just run its course and things will come back online. It seems to be the case with everyone I've spoken to about this. So there's some words on that. Hopefully that wasn't triggering. I know it's a sensitive topic. My words to you are going to be okay. You're going to get better. COVID is not going to wreck you. It's not going to undo all the progress you've made. It ain't going to create an enormous setback. At least it doesn't have to. So, be strong and rest assured. And finally, I guess the last thing I will talk about, because we're about 25 minutes now, I think, is how many of you guys caught Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan? I know Joe Rogan's kind of on the hot seat right now with, ironically, the COVID thing. And I don't know if you guys watch him or how much you know about him. Some of it's deserving, some of it's not. Joe has been kind of a guy who's been a little bit too machismo about it, I think, too alpha male about COVID, and saying things like, well, if you're just strong and if you're young and healthy, or if you're not overweight, you'll be fine. Well, that's just not, we don't know that. I mean, maybe in most cases that's true, but we do know that, there are a lot of athletes that got wrecked from COVID, that were, the top, peak performance people on the planet. I mean, these guys were just specimens. I mean, literally the 1%ers on the planet of health. And we watched these guys get really sick, a number of them, and they didn't have diseases, and they weren't overweight, and they didn't have anything. So it really is a roll of the dice. And I think Joe does play it a little fast and loose. And I've literally seen his podcast where he's made fun of people for getting a vaccine and clowned them and called them, names. And it's just, I don't like that part of it. I think as a guy, I know he's a comedian. He always falls back on, yeah, I'm just a comedian. But it's like, but you got like 11 million people listening to you. There is a responsibility at that point to, I don't know, and I think he's definitely shifted and become more conservative. And so when identity politics get involved, then you got to start to question everyone's motives involved there. Where are they really coming from? Or are they being, are they kind of pandering to their base, so to speak? I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of neither here nor there. I just know Joe's kind of a controversial person right now. I think he's done a lot of good too, obviously. I mean, he's beloved for a reason. I've actually met him a few times. He's a really nice guy. But he had Jordan Peterson on recently. And as many of you know, Jordan Peterson, really famous clinical psychologist, brilliant guy, professor for many years. He comes from a Carl Jung, kind of Jungian background. As far as I understand, at least I know he's very big into Carl Jung. Jung if you're not familiar with Jung, he was big in about the collective unconscious, the person's, our unconscious mind, and its impact on our health, our mental health, and moreover our mental health. And he focused on personality and personal development and self-actualization and becoming an individual. I mean, that it was really, really profound stuff. I still think Carl Jung is just 100 years ahead of his time. I mean, he was so far ahead of his time that at one point he was sort of appreciated for it. And then he was almost so brilliant that he looked like a fool, I think, to a lot of people. And I still think we haven't come full circle to realize just how damn brilliant this guy is. I mean, his works they're so difficult to read and even understand. I mean, you need like 10 years of training or something to just sort of process a lot of what he's saying. It's really far out. But anyway, so, Peterson has that background. I think Peterson is actually quite brilliant. And apparently, I don't know how many years now it was that it's been. Peterson got on benzos. It was first, the reports came out that his wife was sick with cancer and he was struggling with that, and he got on benzos. And then when he tried to come off, he discovered what a hell it really is. And then he went all around the world. This is the best I can understand from what I've put together and what we've learned. He somehow ends up in Russia, and I don't know if this is entirely true because I have conflicting reports, but he was unsuccessful really trying to get off benzos. He was struggling so much that he was put in a medically induced coma and then tapered off benzos that way. Now, if anybody knows more about this, please share, because I don't want to be talking, nonsense here, but I believe that's what happened. Well, he was on Joe Rogan recently, and well, first I should say it took him years to recover, like 2 years or something. And we saw, I don't know, you probably have seen some of his uh, interviews after benzos, and he was wrecked. I mean, he was crying. You could see the pain in his eyes. Like, you could just, anyone who's been through benzos, you go, yep, that's a soldier. That's a guy in the trenches, fighting for his recovery and for his life. But, so Jordan kind of went away for a little while. And at the same time, I think he was kind of buckling underneath, and understandably so, the media pressure. They kept labeling this guy alt-right, and he's a racist, and he hates trans people. And, I mean, he went from like being beloved to just being the guy to attack on, and the sandbag on every, leftist kind of left-leaning podcast or TV show. And I think a lot of it just, I think his star shot up and exploded, and then people swatted him back down to the ground pretty hard. I think that had to have an impact on his story and Benzo's, and I think even Joe Rogan in the interview with him alluded to that. But I bring this up because I had mixed feelings about this Joe Rogan appearance. When I first saw him on it, I was like, oh, this is great. He finally is coming out. This guy's got a huge, I mean, Peterson and Rogan, both enormous voice, enormous influence. And, and cheers to Joe Rogan for even talking about this because, like I said, 11 million, people following him. Like, he really is helping put benzos. Probably, you know what? Joe Rogan might have done more for benzos than anybody has in the last 30 years, possibly. I mean, who the hell has put benzos, even the term benzo, in front of 11 million people? You say Lisa Ling and her documentary and her, her hour that she did on it, but I don't think that reached 11 million people. I mean, Joe he's got a huge audience, and I'm reading the comments under the Jordan Peterson video on benzos, and you see how many people are now aware of it and what they're talking, and they're sharing about their experiences, and like, it's just amazing. You're like, oh my God, Joe, great job. Great job, man. You are getting the word out there. And Joe seems to be genuinely compassionate about it. I mean, he really does seem to care. So very cool for him. Good on him, But Joe was trying to probe the topic a little bit, and I felt like Jordan really, he didn't seem to want to talk about it very much. He was very, and I get that. I mean, look, I healed, and it took me 5 years to come back and talk about it. I was like a guy that got let out of Alcatraz, was being tortured. And I finally was just like, you one day the gates open and you run and you don't turn around. You don't look back. You just keep running. You don't even look backwards to see, because you're so afraid if you turn around, you're going to see the monster coming after you, and you just keep running forward. And also there's an instinct that that's what you should be doing to heal, right? Like, you should be moving forward, focusing on the good, focusing on what you need to focus on, because coming off of benzos, you've probably got 2, 3, 4 years sometimes of work to do. And I don't just mean in benzos, but that pre-existing condition is still there, and it's going to be ugly for a while, and you've got to work on that. And going through benzos, you're going to have what I've kind of coined a manifesting condition. What came after prolonged acute suffering. If you've been suffering even for 6 months, a year, you could become agoraphobic. You can develop panic disorder, Great Depression. It changes the way you think, the way you perceive yourself and your world. You become physically unhealthy. I mean, it just wrecks you on every damn level. Spiritually, people lose their faith in God, and the faith in their government. They lose faith in medicine and psychology, and even psychology gets thrown in there. It's like psychology, they're not the ones prescribing it, it's psychiatry. But, it just creates this filth of ugliness over everything. And so I got, like, Jordan didn't want to talk. I got that. Like, that he wanted to, I think, I don't think he was coming on to talk about that. I think Joe kept bringing it back to that. But I was a little, I don't know if I want to say disappointed, if it's the right word, but I wish Jordan would have spoke more about it and been more engaging. And you know what? And you're looking at him and you go, this guy, he's got benzo-induced PTSD. Like a lot of us. There's like there is some level of benzo-induced PTSD. Maybe it's not pure PTSD, like the kind of PTSD from a soldier that watched another soldier killed in front of him or something, but maybe a form of complex PTSD. A slow, traumatic, continuous trauma over a period of time. I think that's more than likely what's a better argument for it. And so I get it. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to relive it. But at the same time, I look at Jordan and I'm like, Jordan, this is it. This is the battle. And as a guy in clinical psychology, this is your battle. It's not politics. This is the heart of the matter. Like, this is your new calling right now. And you know better than most people what this thing has done and what it's doing to people. And you know that there needs to be protocol changes and people need to be warned about this, because every one of us that got into this, nobody has sat there and when they went to their doctor, and okay, so we found out Jordan Peterson admitted that he didn't get on it for what we thought initially. The reports were his wife being sick with cancer. No, he said, "Oh, I wasn't sleeping." Well, that could be for any number of reasons, right? But getting on benzos for not sleeping is about the worst damn thing you could do. I mean, if you have to get on benzos, it's the worst thing. And I'm guarantee you, when Jordan got on it, there was never a moment where he was sitting in front of a doctor, a psychiatrist, and he's like, I can't sleep. And the doctor said, how about benzos? "Oh, well, okay, well, what about them? Well, what is this? Explain it to me." "Oh, it's great. There's nothing wrong." Um, I don't think, well, I think that's what they told him. There's nothing wrong. But I don't think there was a moment where the doctor goes, "Well, here's the thing about benzos. You could be, on it for 6 months to a year, and when you come off it, it can literally wreck your whole entire life. I mean, you think your sleeping problems are bad now, buddy. You are going to really struggle coming off this thing. It can make you agoraphobic. You could develop, PTSD from it. It can make you unhealthy. I mean, people kill themselves every year trying to come off of this, and it can leave you for years devastated." I don't think that conversation ever happened for Jordan, just like it never happened for any of us, right? So, again, I say all this because I think that's part of Jordan's fight in this. It should be to draw attention like nobody else could to this situation and say, man, there's a real problem here and something needs to give. First off, patients need to be well informed about what the hell benzos are and what they can possibly do. I mean, imagine buying a car, you pay for it, you drive off the lot, you get up 5 miles up the road, your motor blows up and the wheels come off and you crash into a tree. And you go back to the car lot and the salesman goes, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that could happen." It's rare, but it does happen. I mean, that's what's happening with benzos. It's like, all I was taught and told by these doctors was it's perfectly safe. You can stop taking them whenever you want. If you ever want to, if you want to stop taking them, you just quit. You don't even need to taper. Then when things start going crazy and you're losing everything and you're just losing it all, you go back to the doctors and they say, "Oh no, it couldn't be the benzos. No, that's your pre-existing condition." I said, "Oh, I didn't know my pre-existing condition put a metallic taste in my mouth, ringing in my ears. I stopped sleeping for 3 days and I want to kill myself. Is that my pre-existing condition? I don't think so." Anyway, getting riled up here, but I just wish Jordan would have done more. I talked more, been more transparent. I mean, I felt like that whole damn podcast, and it was a long one. I think it was like 4 hours or something. Should have been half of it at least. Should have been on benzos. It really should have, man. And I just think Jordan's probably not ready, and I don't even know if he's processed everything that's happened to him. Like when I'm listening to him talk about it, like you see the deer in headlights still. You can still see the look, And so maybe he's still trying to figure it out. I don't know. And I imagine, there are some bad areas in the benzo community. And you've heard me say a lot about them. And that's probably one of the reasons I'm not more popular. Is because I come out and talk about some of these benzo support groups, benzo buddies, they've kicked me out of the group for telling people that if you're really sick, you should at least consider an antidepressant, right? Like that's something that Dr. Heather Ashton, who's beloved in this community, said herself. But like religion and like a lot of things, people cherry pick what they want to hear and they cherry pick what they don't want to hear. And somehow those parts got omitted from her teachings and her, you know, her the education that she brought to this battle. But I said, you know, look, some people may benefit from an antidepressant, and if you're really, really at the edge and you don't think you can go on anymore, before you harm yourself, before you sink into complete despair, yeah, sure, try the antidepressant. You know, maybe get on gabapentin. I'm not a big fan of gabapentin, but do something. Do something to get better. Sometimes you even have to take a step back. Sometimes with recovery, you know, you for whatever reason you went too fast or something, and say you're coming down from 1 milligram of Klonopin, you get down to zero point 0.5. It's okay to go back up to 0.75 and do all the other right things that it takes to get you better. You know, if you're becoming deeply agoraphobic, let's say, then let's go work on the agoraphobia. Let's stabilize you. Let's get you healthy. Let's get you winning again, and then we'll slowly taper again. And who cares if you lost 6 months? It's better than 6 years. It's better than the alternative. And I've said these things in these forums, and literally got asked to leave. And sometimes not even asked; they just kicked me out. You know, people wrote me horrible letters. Like, I mean, you guys would not believe the stuff, the letters I've received and things. And I'm just thinking, wow, who are you guys? You know, who are some of these people? They're not in. I have a PhD in clinical psych. I went through it. I made a full recovery. I have a program. I believe I know. You know, I have a good sense of how to get the hell out of this thing and get recovered. And I think all they can do, some of them, is just be supportive. But it's almost like misery loves company with some of them. It's support in that we all sit around and we agree to scratch each other's wounds. That's what it is. Now, not all of them. Not all of them. There's a lot of good forums out there. There's a lot of good groups. And there's a lot of amazing people in there. And they're really saving people's lives. They're giving hope. They're giving good information. You know, they're validating people's experience. I'm not talking about these people. So please hear me on that. But you guys, come on. You've been in these groups. You've seen it. You've seen it. I've got a group, Life After Benzos, on Facebook. And, you know, and it's tricky because people in that group, they don't even want you to talk about symptoms and stuff. It's like, can we just have one damn group where we're just survivors and we're focusing on good? But you get it. It's like you want to, you know, you have some weird new thing going on. What's this new symptom? And you want to come back and say, hey, do you guys know about this? And what do I do about this? And people are like, but even on that level, they go, I don't want to hear about this, man. There's 100 other groups. Go ask those guys. Go to the Benzo Coalition. You know, whatever. But don't bring it here. I want to hear success stories. I want to hear people winning and getting better and motivating me and sharing memes and, like, you know, and I get that. I really do. So I'm just saying all that because I got to wonder how much of Jordan, how deep he went down this well when he was going through this. And he probably saw a lot of stuff. And as a clinical psych guy, you do see it differently, guys. Like when you see, this is where I'm coming from with this Benzo buddy stuff, is, you know, he knows what he's looking at. He's going, this is health anxiety, health OCD. This is the blind leading the blind, depression leading depression. You know, panicked people panicking other people, and there is a sense of it of going, this isn't healthy, this isn't good, you know, and again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? There are a lot of good, and there are a lot of good forums, and there's a lot of great warriors and people in there fighting the right fight. So, but you know, Jordan probably saw a lot of negative, and I imagine he got the hell out of there, and it's unfortunate because it's like he got out before he saw the better people, the better. Now I'm guessing here too. I don't know this for sure. Hell, maybe he didn't, you know. But I'm guessing, like a lot of people, he started to do the research, saw how crazy it was getting, and said, no, I'm going to go focus on medicine. Well, unfortunately, medicine doesn't have a lot to say about this. You know how many things are psychosomatic, benzo-induced psychosomatic, from swallowing to IBS to pelvic floor to fibromyalgia, I mean, you name it. And after benzos, this stuff, lo and behold, starts to clear up. Because that's what benzos does. It wrecks you. It wrecks the nervous system. It creates a host of negative things. It can look like a lot of things. And if you go to a medical doctor, you go to 12 medical doctors, you're going to end up with 12 different medications and 12 different treatments. And they're just going to go down this rabbit hole treating something, but they'll never get out the true kind of genesis of it. They're never going to get at the beginning of this and say, well, where is it coming from? You know what I mean? It's like a viral infection, but we're running around, we're cutting, we're doing skin grafts and we're laser treatments, and we're doing all this stuff and bandages, but it's a viral. It's coming from inside. Treat the inside. And the painful thing about it is with benzos, there's not a lot you can do for any of that because it does become psychosomatic on some level. What do I mean by psychosomatic? I'm not saying it's all in your head. It's like the dumbest thing someone could say. It's all in your head. No, no. The nervous system displaces trauma into the body. That's what it really means, right? That's why they prescribe SSRIs for lower back pain. Lower back pain. Wow, why is that? Why would an SSRI work for lower back pain? Go to Google and go to Wikipedia. Look up SSRIs and look at kind of offhand, secondhand uses for it. They treat back pain for it because we know you get depressed, and it displaces into the body, stress into the shoulders, into the neck, into the head. You get an immense scalp pain, immense back pain, sciatic nerve pains. I mean, it's all nerves. You got a nervous system just fried. And so what is medical science trying to do? I mean, they're just trying to treat the symptoms, and it looks like a host of other things. So that's all I'm saying. I think probably Peterson went down a rabbit hole, saw a lot of ugly, bounced out of it, returned back to medical science. They probably didn't, I don't think they were able to do much for him. I would be guessing right now he's probably on an antidepressant and gabapentin to try to manage things. And then if that's the case, he's going to have to come off one or both of those, especially the gabapentin at some point. And, you just hope he's doing everything right. You hope that he's, in my philosophy of recovery, I talk about lulling and pushing, Lulling, you're going to have to lull down that nervous system. And that happens a lot of ways. You got those four neurotransmitters, those positive neurotransmitters that take a back seat during all of this. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, to name a few. They really take the back seat to the worst kind, and norepinephrine and cortisol run amok. Histamine run amok. Those are the ones running the show. Those are the ones steering the boat. It's almost like the hierarchy in needs as it pertains to neurotransmitters. It's like you don't get to fall in love and find your dream job and build your dream life when you're just trying to survive. Survival takes precedent. You need food, shelter, water, air, and you need to be safe from predators. Like that's the thing. That's where you are in benzo recovery. So unfortunately, as those other neurotransmitters, the good stuff, the oxytocin, for example, when that stuff takes the back seat, well, then mental illness is born. Because you have to remember, everything we do in our life is it's basically nature's antidepressant. You going out, having a good meal, spending time with a loved one, being intimate, being happy, getting out in sunshine, being active. I mean, everything in your life, following your dreams and your passions and having fun, like this is all based on on mental health. I mean, it's nature's antidepressant, really. That's how you get oxytocin. That's how you get dopamine. It's how you get serotonin. And benzos removes all that. It creates a lifestyle where none of those things seem even possible. And all you're doing is you're engaging in activities that just promote a self-sustaining loop of suffering with cortisol and norepinephrine. Your adrenaline's going off and your stress is out of control. And as that ramps up, your thoughts and emotions and behavior follow. And as those thoughts, emotions, behavior follow, those chemical responses increase. And as those chemical responses increase, all the others, you know what I mean? It's a loop. It's a continuum, guys. It's a continuum. And you're stuck in this damn continuum. So part of lulling is getting back to those good neurotransmitters. It's setting time to say every day, I'm going to go try to create some oxytocin for myself. And I'm going to try, and then pushing back, I'm going to slowly try to reduce cortisol. I'm going to try to activate oxytocin. I'm going to reduce cortisol. And I'm going to see if I can't tip the scales back the other way again. That's part of recovery. And I hope Peterson is doing that. I hope that there's some kind of methodical approach that he's taking, and it isn't just take these meds and, maybe, and it's almost like the meds work by default because it's like if you take the meds and you get any relief and you're able to get back into your life in the way I'm just talking about, then yeah, then those other chemicals have a chance, So sometimes it's like you're winning and it looks more about gabapentin, but it's not so much gabapentin. It's maybe gabapentin lowered the cortisol response and it allowed you to increase the serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. But really, it was those other three neurotransmitters. Don't underplay those and the value of what they did for you. You know. Okay. Well, anyway, this should be called Powers Rambling Podcast on Benzos. Those are just some of my thoughts on I don't know, a few topics, and particularly that last topic on Jordan Peterson on Rogan. I think it was great. I hope he does more of that. I would love to talk to Peterson. I would love to have a conversation with the guy myself. But certainly, I think he has a chance to really be a game changer. He really has a chance to push things into the future with benzos. I mean, he could catapult this into the limelight, like by 20, 30 years, he could really put it in the limelight and be a catalyst for change in this. But I think he's got to be ready and he's got to figure it out. I think he's got to that's my instinct. And I might be completely wrong. The guy might be even twice as knowledgeable than I am on this thing. But my instincts don't tell me that. I just think he's still deer in the headlight. He's still trying to figure it out while he's still trying to get better. And I don't think he really wants to talk about it right now. Maybe he's not ready, But either way, guys, hey, it was a good step in the right direction, right? It was a good step in the right direction. So good for him. Good for Joe Rogan. And that concludes my first Benzo Powers podcast, episode 1. Maybe one day I'll do this with a camera. I should do that soon. I've been trying to create a little bit of a set or something that can look more professional, that's more presentable. Oftentimes I love to do this outside, I love being in nature. I think nature is one of the best things you can do just for your mental health, period, but especially for benzos. It's just spend an hour outside in the sunlight and amongst nature every day. But doing this outside would be tough. So I don't know. I'll figure it out, guys. And as usual, much love. Thank you for the support. And I will talk to you guys soon. Godspeed.
I grew up in a place where they told you what to chase, told you how to run the race. Every move was on the page, but I didn't like their way. Had to fight and misbehave, had to find a way to change, had to leave to find my way. Caught up in a daydream, I beat my mind up there almost daily. It's how I pass time, no opinions safely. It's how I understand what I want in this place, see. Cause everybody wanna tell you bad things, what could go wrong, what fame brings. But success is a finicky thing, and if you ain't sure, no, it'll never be.